as you begin to get into the knowledge of yourself, you start to understand that you don't just have a brain, you have a mind. And then there are these 6 faculties of the mind, right? Like we know when we go to Mali, we know that Benjamin Banneker that did Big Ben and all of that, invented the clock and all, he planned out DC. We know that he was from the Dogon tribe. We know that if we go to Mali and we look in the caves in the Dogon tribe, they got the Sirius satellite system plotted out on the cave walls in Mali, you know. So how do these kinds of things happen? Well, you have 6 different faculties of the mind. You got will, you got intuition, you got perception, you got reason, you got imagination, and you got memory. Out of all of those 6,
you got to slow this down, right?
Right.
Because you're trying to help people transition,
right?
Not get lost.
That's right.
So let's enumerate that again.
Yeah.
Just a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So people who are taking notes,
yeah,
can really embody what it is that you're exactly saying. So let's go back in the 6 faculties of the mind.
Yeah. You got
this is class.
Yeah,
you know,
class
what I'm saying?
is in session.
Class
baby.
is in session.
So again, all we're giving and all Professor Devin is going to give you, you know, as these episodes progress, is enough for you to get out there and know what to Google. Because, you know, you can have the wisest man in history sitting in front of you. You ain't got the right questions.
Yeah.
You ain't going to get the right answers. That's why I tell you, judge a man by his questions, not his answers.
Yeah.
You know, so this is just stuff for you to go out there and do your own research. We just going to start you off, right? But, yeah, you got will, you know, which is like what you look at as a force thing. Will is about the fact that like you're gonna put mind over matter. If I had a gun to my head and I had to define will, I would say it's your ability to put your mind over what your body wants to do. It's your ability to say like, I'm going to do this and treat pain like it's a suggestion, right? That would be will, right?
Treat pain like a suggestion.
Treat pain like a suggestion. Treat impossible like an opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be will.
Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week.
Come on, man. You know, to quote
a
self-made
Jay-Z.
billionaire.
That was not Professor Devin.
Listen,
that was Jay-Z.
But you'll hear me and Professor Devin quote Jay-Z a lot because most billionaires, you're reading a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
You know, they ain't write that book.
Yeah.
You know, at least when you listen to Jay-Z's music, you know a billionaire wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, but so you got will, then you got intuition. Intuition would have to do with the fact that your mind is constantly absorbent, especially when you were a child, which is why parenting, you know, we need to unpack toxic parenting. We need to unpack, I ain't trying to go dictatorial with it, but you know, some, you know what I mean? I don't want to say too much, but you know what? You know, I'm talking about opinions you probably shouldn't share.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need a license before people can have parents, because you're turning out, you're turning out
that's solid.
Some wild boys.
I was talking to someone, please don't let me throw you off track. I hope I'm not a person that's throwing you off track. But I was talking to someone about that just the other day, about how reckless it could be because we don't need a license to be an entrepreneur or be a business person to employ people. Like lawyers need licenses and doctors need licenses. It's like you can just come out. It's good on one side and bad on the other.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? You could really destroy some stuff.
Come on.
You know, like you have some employers and oh man, I could go so many areas because I talk about how we behave based on our job.
That's right.
Right? Our behavior is tied to our job.
That's right.
You could tell someone in the streets who ain't like a manager, right? Or someone who doesn't have like a certification that they're trying to protect.
That's right.
Or if they have a job at all.
That's right.
Like a job represents financial survival, right?
Man.
So think about how important being an employer is.
Yeah.
And if that employer is reckless and not developing of his people and oppressive of his people or her people, and not, you know, giving them the right benefits maybe on the jobs, and are they unhealthy?
That's
just different things.
That's right.
You have the power of sustenance, the power of economics.
That's right.
But your social power is even more powerful because of what you decide to do and how you decide to carry stuff. It's like, you know, some of the employers who would tell their employees they won't give them the day off to vote, and if they take the day off, they're fired, or if they call in sick, they're fired. Like stuff like that.
That's
like,
right.
Imagine you don't have to have a license to be that person.
Oh, it gets worse. You don't have to be a license. You don't have to have a license to be a social media influencer. And they're officially saying that it was bad enough when black people were giving these celebrities from the world of sports. People like, how did Muhammad Ali come to speak for me? Well, I'll tell you how. He was the only one they let on TV. You know, he'll break some records and then they get him on TV. So he was thrust into that position. But now, you know, we trust influencers more than we trust celebrities, and that's even worse. Because you definitely don't need a certificate to be an influencer. You know, and so you
don't even have to be 18.
What are you saying? So
like you could be a kid with an undeveloped mind.
That's it. That's it.
I don't want to throw you off. You said parents and no licenses. It just made me like.
It's so true though, bro. So you know, we were talking about intuition and whatnot, and right to that point, it's a perfect segue, because where your intuition is coming from is from all of this you've been absorbing. You know, like when I said earlier, what entertains you trains you. Your intuition is coming from, you can't explain why you have this feeling about the way that this guy is looking at you across the parking lot or whatever, but something clicks with something else, with something else, with something else, and then you get this feeling, this hunch, this gut sort of like a trigger, and then it makes you want to act in a certain way. We shouldn't ignore our intuition. We should do things like meditate, like clear space, like turn the notifications off your phone, practice expanding your attention span so that you can get more in touch with hearing God when he's talking to you, aka intuition. This is when a coincidence starts to really feel like God's staying anonymous, because your intuition is on point. So that's will, that's intuition. Reason is a big one, because reason, the third faculty we're talking about, is critical thinking skills. You know, thinking is the hardest work most will never do, right? You know, most people just don't think. They play recordings and they confuse it with thinking. They're playing over and over and over the stuff somebody told them, and they think they're thinking, when really you're just like regurgitating. You're parroting idea. That's why I ask again, if you don't have any thoughts you're scared to share with people, you're probably not thinking for yourself. You're probably not using reason, because we know this world is mostly poor people. We know this country's mostly the poor, when anybody can go from 0 to 100 if they are sufficiently motivated. Right? So we know that people aren't using their reasoning skills. So therefore, we know if we go with the crowd 90 times out of 100, we're going in the wrong direction. So your reason, your ability to critically consider something without emotion in it, to be rational, is a powerful faculty. You know, from there we'll go to memory, and the fact that, like, if I were to hypnotize you, you could still tell me how many people were at your 5th birthday party. You could still tell me how many steps it was from the parking lot to this studio. You could, right? Your memory is insane, but memory is also very malleable. You know, as we see on them First 48 shows and all these other joints where they'll play with your memory and insert memories into your head, like that Inception movie. But memory is a faculty you should be paying attention to. Perception. You know, a lot of times perception is reality for people. What I try to remind people with perception is that 90% of the things that are around are invisible to you. You know, most things that are powerful are invisible, you know, but just to keep it in science, you can't see X-rays, you can't see gamma rays, you can't see ultraviolet. All you can see is this little small 10% of the electromagnetic spectrum, and you call that sight. You know, that's your perception. So now your perception becomes reality, but it gets bigger than that, because either you gotta, you know, one of the things people always hear me say, like at the end of my TED talk, I was like, hey, either you gotta expand your mind to match your goals, or your goals will start to shrink to match your mind. It's your perception of where you headed. Kind of like what you were saying about you begin to operate based on your self-image. Whether we're talking about a job title you have, or whether we're talking about whether you see yourself as a king or a criminal, you know, you begin to act as if. Well, you know, this whole idea of expanding your mind to match those goals you have is really important to your question about transformation, because if I'm not careful, my goals will be making it to the weekend. If I'm not careful, I will willingly trade in a happy life for a happy hour, you know, because that's my perception of what I can get out the game, you know. And so you got to watch what you're feeding yourself. You got to watch whether you're feeding yourself fast food or soul food. You got to watch whether you're giving yourself some type of mental nutrition so that you can begin to adjust your perception based on a higher level of reality. Because I ain't saying it ain't reality that the glass is half empty. I ain't saying it ain't reality that the glass is half full. I'm saying that you want to adjust your perception to say that, like, no matter what's in the glass, I'm going to sell it because somebody thirsty. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, you got imagination. Like Einstein was like, imagination is more important than knowledge. And I'm living proof of that sitting here with no college degree, et cetera, and so forth. But what's wild is I put out this vision board coloring book. I never list that when I talk about being an author, but to my knowledge, my vision board coloring book is the first vision board coloring book that's ever been invented. Right on the cover of it is a Bentley. This past Thanksgiving, I had picked up my brother and my sister and took them to my uncle's house. He went to Harvard. All my cousins went to Harvard, Wharton, all of these schools. Here I am, got kicked out of college, and I picked up my pediatrician sister and my brother, who's also like a big dog in the world of corporate, even though they both dabble in entrepreneurship, et cetera, and so forth. And my uncle still be laughing to this day about how I'm the one with no degree, but I pick him up in the Bentley truck. You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's because my imagination, right on the front of that vision board coloring book, there was a Bentley. I had never rode in a Bentley before I bought one. But imagination is a dog. If people would just learn to visualize, if they'll just learn to put these thoughts and these images in their head and dig that even God started with an image, right? Like God didn't start with the clay. He you know, if I'm reading the book right, this big book about entrepreneurship that everybody, you know, is one of the best-selling books in the world, you know, it says that God created us in his own image. That means he had to start with the picture of it all. And so if people would just understand those 6 faculties, they'll be a lot further along the path of having a healthy sense of self-esteem. Because no matter what they told you, what she told you, your ex-wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your ex-husband, however it goes, you still kind of know who you are and whose you are at the point you begin understanding on a neurological perspective and a spiritual perspective the power you got inside you. So you mean to tell me I was created by a creator to be creative? Like, yeah, they say cleanliness is next to godliness. I'd be like creativity is next to godliness. You know what I'm saying? Because it's your imagination that's going to set the pace. Whatever you aim at determines what you see. You know what I mean? Like people always think that it's the past that creates the present, right? But when you study quantum physics, what you start understanding is that it's your vision of the future that creates the present. Because depending on my goals is whether I'm paying attention to how they put together this production studio. The next person is sitting in here that don't care nothing about increasing their impact with media. They're not even noticing all of the teaching lessons that are in this room, because their future dictates that this present moment has nothing to do with that. So they checking their social, they scrolling, looking, because they're completely oblivious, you know, to all of these jewels that are around them. Because at the end of the day, their mind is starting to shrink to match their goals. I know that was a hell of a long answer, man.
Oh, no. This is class.
Word up.
We don't ring the bell.
Okay.
In this class.
All right.